Hello, hello, I'm Kads, and welcome back to the free-to-play review. We are just continuing on with the string of videos this week. Lots of things to cover, and today's topic is going to be the latest iteration of the Heroes Path, specifically the Harmonious Path, which is replacing, surprisingly, at least shocked to me, it is replacing the Champion Chase for the weekend. This is a very, very rare occurrence, but it has happened in the past before, where the Harmonious Path is not a summon rush, it is actually a Champion Chase, so the objective here is to get champions alongside of a mostly negligible or potentially negligible dungeon divers aspect. So that's the most important thing that we should dive into here, which is talking about how you get points for this one. So once again, it is not a summon rush. You're not getting points for summoning a certain type of shard. You're going to be rewarded for the type of champion that pops out of the shard or any other source, according to the parenthetical here. So 1 point for a common, 5 for an uncommon, 50 for a rare, 2,000 for an epic, 7,500 for legendary, 20,000, which is crazy, for a mythical, and then for the voids, 200 for a void rare, 3,000 for a void epic, and then 10,000 for a void legendary. Of course, there is a 2x on voids right now, so this is probably the most important row to focus on, but depending upon what you do, the other rows might be applicable as well, as we'll get to a bit later. And then this is a pretty standard table for the gear hunters aspect of it, which we'll break down a little bit later. So that's how we get points, but what are we aiming for from this path? So this is the featured Heroes Path. Note there is not a guaranteed champion in this one, so I think Varkos, the other champion, one of the other champions associated with the Web Corruption event in the game, is not up for grabs here. He will probably be guaranteed in some future deck, Heroes Path, but not this one in particular. This one is more focused on Titan event points for the Princely Titan event, as well as trying to get your hands on the 5-star soul for Talena Soul Seer. Now, I will say this is kind of an interesting position for a lot of people to be in because, Talena, she's kind of like a mini Fabian. That's where I kind of put her in terms of her kit and capabilities. Granted, she does give me more of a PvE vibe more than a PvP vibe, but you can definitely use her as an alternative to Fabian in PvP, but she's just a little less capable than he is at locking out in the long term just because of his extra turns, kind of helping him cycle through his abilities and the duration of his lockout. And arguably the 5-star soul on a Fabian is a lot more important, but if you wanted to maximize her potential by getting her the accuracy at the 5-star, that could be beneficial as well. But again, depending upon your use case, you're probably not going to need that if you're only using her in PvE. But if she is going to become one of the most important champions on your account for PvP, then perhaps you should consider what it might take for you on your account to go out and get her soul, just to have that for the future. But again, given the fusion exchange system also exists, there is a mechanism for you to go and get Fabian instead of her or on top of her. So again, kind of weigh all of those things depending upon what your goals are long term for your account. Now, in terms of the path itself, the first thing I always like to do is see, if there are any keys, and there do seem to be 2 keys, and then how many keys are important for unlocking things. I'm not sure if they made a mistake or not, but from my eyes, you can tell me if I'm crazy, but there's only 1 key node here right in the center for the last bit of Titan event points, but there are 2 keys in the path. So I'm not really sure what happened there. Maybe they meant for this to cost 2 keys and they messed up and it only costs 1. So the second key is kind of pointless. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on there. But nonetheless, that's kind of the most important thing to highlight. And of course, the 5-star soul is locked behind that singular key, and the keys are on the left and the right-hand side respectively. So you basically have to go down there and get one or the other. So there's a mythical tome down here, there's relic fragments down here, there's a 6-star mythical chaos ore, there's some legendary relic fragments as well. All the Titan event points basically stop at this row here. So you've got 3 nodes of 100 and then 2 separate nodes here of 50 each, equaling a total of 400 Titan event points total from this event. And so for my inspection, there are 4 unique paths that might be of interest depending upon your goal. So if you just wanted to get yourself a mythical tome, you have a couple of mythicals or 1 mythical on your account, you just need a tome, you don't really care about anything else, you're skipping the Titan event, then all you'd have to do basically is hug the entirety of the left hand or the entirety of the right hand side, doesn't really matter which, either one will bring you down to the bottom row, and then you go to the mythical tome, and that would be a grand total of 46,250 points. If you wanted to collect all 400 of the Titan event points, that being you come down the left or the right hand side, you collect these 2 nodes, you get both of these, and then you collect 1 of the keys and then come back all the way to the top through the center portion, unlock the last node. That would be a grand total of 52,000 points. If you wanted to get the mythical relic fragments here, it's basically the same thing as the mythical tome plus 10,000 points, so 56,250. And last but not least, if you wanted to just go for the 5-star perfect soul, all you need to do is basically one of the Titan, or half of the Titan paths. You go down the left or the right hand side, you grab the key, come back down through the center, and then you'll go through the deflection gear to get yourself the legendary or the 5-star soul for 80,750 points. But noting that you will, at the bare minimum, you'll get 200 Titan event points by doing that as well. So yeah, overall, this is kind of a relatively simple path, which is always good. The longer, windy ones are always a little bit more confusing and harder to articulate or identify decent paths. But this one's pretty straightforward. There's kind of only a handful of things that most people will want. So with that in mind, I did throw once again a bunch of numbers out at you, and we can digest those numbers a little bit further in the spreadsheet here, which will be linked in the description box down below if you'd like a copy of this for yourself. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the Gear Hunters section, so kind of documenting, breaking down all of those points relative to their rarity and rank of the rewards, and then filtering it through the most commonly farmed dungeon iterations. So normal mode 20, normal mode 24, 25, hard mode 6, and hard mode 10. And the main takeaway there is that you will get more coins per run the more difficult stage you run, but you'll get higher efficiency in terms of coins per energy by running stage 20. That is still the most energy efficient stage in the game. And then there's also the campaign. You'll get some credit if you're running campaign. There is a champion training event starting tomorrow, at least at the time of this recording, where you can get some credit from getting those shields from the campaign as well. But of course, the main appeal, the bulk of one's points is going to come from the champion chase. And for those who are familiar with the spreadsheet, there actually is a champion chase section down here, and we haven't used it for a long time, but we're breaking it back out again. So we can ignore the summon rush and the soulstone rush up here, and then we can focus in on the champion chase. And essentially these values are the average amount of points you're going to get for each type of shard. This is not a guarantee because of course there's massive amounts of variance in terms of what pops out of a shard. It could be a bunch of rares, it could be a bunch of epics, could be some legendaries in the mix. All of that is considered as one singular value, which means that the larger sample size you pull, the more likely you are to converge toward these values. But if you're doing 20 voids or something, you probably will be relatively high or relatively low compared to this singular value. So because it is 2x voids, the main thing to highlight here would be the void row. Obviously you could pull out of the shard types, but with the 2x on, that's probably the most incentivized position, and these are the things you want to consider the most. So for example, the mythical tome, if you wanted to get that, on average it would cost around 60 voids, a little bit more, 70 voids on average to get all the Titan event points. Again, this is assuming you do absolutely 0 dungeon divers whatsoever or use any free points, which we'll come back to in a second. And then the most important thing, if you wanted to go for the 5-star soul, 80,000 points and some change, up to 110 voids to guarantee, to most likely get enough points on average to get these 5-star soul, which is definitely a lot of points. And I do not recommend trying to pursue your goal solely with shards. I think there are other ways to go about it. And in fact, that's a pretty decent segue to talk about what my plan is for this event. My plan essentially is to try and go shardless on this one. So you can see here, my path is a little bit simpler because I'm focusing on the Titan event points. Personally, I don't really care about the 5-star soul. Like I said, for me, she's going to be a PvE champion, so I'm going to be running her in faction wars, maybe a little bit of Curse City as needed, and whatever niche content happens to come in the future featuring the high elves. And so I don't need the last node of 100 that's locked behind the keys. I'm just going to go get all the other nodes and skip the last 100, and that will be a grand total of the 250 buffer skipped for me on my account relative to my approach to the overall Princely Titan event. So with that in mind, my path is only 43,000 points worth of points. And then again, assuming that they are true to their word with the parenthetical that any source of points can get you, or any source of champions can get you points, that means that if I summon my mythical Anaxia, who we get from the Grand Forest, that would be worth 20,000 points. I obviously did my summons from Soulstones to get Talena yesterday, so that's another 7,500. We did the full infusion, of course, haven't claimed him yet, so that would be another 7,500. I have the Prism Shard from from this past summon pool. And so at bare minimum, this could be higher, of course, it could be a legendary, but at bare minimum, we're assuming the worst case here, the most likely case rather, we're going to get 2,000 points for an epic, a non-void epic. We have some credit from Dungeon Divers. Obviously, there's 2 more days of that I can get more points. That's kind of the variable here. And that would leave us, as it stands right now, with about 5,000 points remaining for me to get, all of the Titan event points except for the last 100. And then that would leave me having to only pull 7 voids or so. But honestly, at that point, I'm less than a 10 pull worth of voids, and so I would personally just dip into my remnant summons in order to close the gap. Again, this number is going to increase, so let's say maybe this goes out to 3,000 or something like that. That would leave 3,000 here, and then I basically would need to pull 2, or is it 1? No, it's 2. I need to pull 2 remnants, and I could get 2 non-void epics or something even better, and then that would equate having to pull, or rather mitigate having to pull any voids at all. So that is my going in plan once I confirm that all of these actually do count as acquiring champions from any source. For me, the main variable is the Dungeon Divers aspect. So this is kind of where I'm currently sitting. I have to finish the event dungeon tournament today. I get to work, or I need to work on Fire Night, the turn attack that started today as well, and then champion training starts tomorrow, so I'm going to be back in the campaign fresh off the deck of fate. So we're going to be doing it, but we have some champions to build, which is kind of nice for a change, but I digress. But yeah, so this is, for me, this is the main variable. I'm not exactly sure how many points of this I can get. Obviously, if I could just get I guess 6,000 points total from divers in 3 days, then I wouldn't need to pull any remnants, but I just doubt that's going to be the case. So I think at minimum we're probably going to have to pull 1 or I guess 2 to 3 remnant summons, most likely, to kind of close this out. But again, to me, it feels worth it. We're getting 3 champions that I want to build and use in some capacity, and then just saving up my voids for some future state where we have, some other 2x event or some other guaranteed event, just because we know for a fact there's going to be 2x voids at some point in the future, maybe in 6 weeks, maybe in 8 weeks, whatever it may be. So in terms of a formal recommendation for the rest of you in terms of this path, it really kind of depends on what you want. If you're not doing the Titan event, or you're trying to minimize the Titan event in terms of getting points from that, then you probably don't need to participate in this at all. If you did not go for the guaranteed champion, then you definitely don't need her soul. If you did go for the champion, but you're kind of like me, where you don't really think that you need her soul, then you don't really need to focus on this at all. But if you just feel like, hey, it's 2x voids, I got 40 voids, let me just see what happens, you could always just do that and kind of get whatever rewards you get along the way, depending upon your luck, of course. But it's kind of just up to you guys in this particular case. I don't really have a distinct recommendation, but I will say, obviously pull voids if you're going to pull any shards and try to take advantage of the 2x. But also there is a fusion coming up. Regardless of how you might feel about her, she could be either she's good on your account, or she's good for a replacement for someone who will be good on your account, like a Fabian or a Newt or an Armand or whatever you might be looking for. So it might be in your best interest to then save your shards, all of them, for the upcoming fusion for whoever you're going to get at the end of that. So yeah, that's going to do it for the free-to-play review of the Harmonious path. Let me know in the comment section down below what your plan is relative to this path. Do you care about the soul? Do you care about some of the other rewards? Do you care about the Titan event? I think a lot of people don't care about the Titan event, but expound on what your plan is in the comment section down below. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. Really does help out the channel, and feel free to hit the subscribe button down below as well, if and only if you're enjoying the content overall on this channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.